Okay. So, Kal Kadosh, we're going to speak today about a very important concept connected to Elul. Ani ledodi vedodi li. I am to my beloved as my beloved to me. Since it's Shabbat Mevarechim, the Shabbat right before Rosh Chodesh Elul. Rosh Chodesh Elul is next Thursday and Friday. Bezrat Hashem. However, though, it's very connected also to the shiur that I just gave about going against the current. It's connected, very well connected, and we're going to see why. But Mesilat Yesharim says, what is it? What is the reason why people do not grow? Why is it that spiritually we do not grow? So he says like this, the Mesilat Yesharim in Perek Bet says, that this is a Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Lutzato, Sibat Kishlon Ha'adam Ba'avodato. The reason why a person will come and he will fall, or he will not succeed in his service to Hashem, Novat Mecheson Itbonu B'simat Lev Al Drachav, happens because we don't pay attention to our paths. Then he says, V'hainu, which means to say, שהיורודפים והולכים במרוצת הרגלים בדרכיהם, מבלי שיניחו זמן לעצמם לדקק על המעשים, we start running with life, and we don't pay attention to what's going on around us. והדרכים ונמצא שהם נופלים ברעה. So what happens is we fall into a trap, we don't even see it. Yeah, that's what happens. So that's the beginning of the Yetzer Hara. And then he brings a very interesting pasuk from Paro, Melech Mitzrayim, that Paro comes and he tells Moshe Rabbeinu, why are you bothering the people? You guys are thinking too much. That you want to do services, you want to do mizbeachs, you want to do altars and go serve God. Says Paro, which we know that Paro resembles the Yetzer Hara. So what it means is, make them work harder. When you make people work and just work and work and work and work and they don't think, that's how the Yetzer Hara gains. So therefore, Paro comes and he says, I don't want you to go serve Kadosh Baruch Hu. I don't want you to serve God. So what am I going to do? I'm going to make sure that you guys are going to have much more work. The more work you have, you're not going to think about it anymore. And that's it. And therefore, we actually have to count our blessings now because of this pandemic, that people now actually start thinking a little bit. And they open up their minds. All of a sudden, they have a little bit of free time. They might have not wished it, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave it to the person by force to self-introspect and to recognize that time that they have. Okay. So now it comes out that in every single time frame, we always have to pay attention to where we are. So this Perek of Pirke Avot, which is Imena Nili Nili, Ushani Latzmi Ma'ani, which is Hilel saying this, is in the first chapter of Pirke Avot during Sefirat HaOmer. And the question that we ask ourselves is, what happened exactly? You have 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva that they pass away, right? And not only do they pass away, we know that these 24,000 students pass away, and all of a sudden the Gemara says, but they didn't give enough respect to each other. And then comes Rabbi Akiva, and he starts everything over again. Imagine a person that invests in a company, he builds an empire, 24,000 employees, think about it. Right, lehavdil, obviously it's a separation. One is mundane and one is Torah, but this is what he did. He made a huge yeshiva, a huge empire. Everything goes down the drain. Everything is lost. That would crush a lot of people. That would destroy a lot of people. Rabbi Akiva didn't get, right? He didn't get with the pessimistic. He didn't go down. Immediately, what does he do? He builds again. But now with these 5 students, he disseminated Torah, where the other 24,000 didn't succeed. And with these 5 students, think about it. One of them is Rabbi Meir Balanes. So imagine everything that we have because of Rabbi Meir Balanes. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Everything, the Kabbalah, Zohar, look, think about it. So these 5 built back that entire empire, which just shows you that sometimes quantity is not everything, but sometimes quality is everything. Because quantity, many times it's a numbers game, but it doesn't show you anything. Yeah, when you want to come and you want to tell me that I have good employees, or I have students, I don't want to know numbers games. I want to know the quality. I want to know what they are. So what happened is that the question that we ask ourselves is that what exactly happened? Rabbi Akiva, that his students didn't give enough kavod to themselves. And then afterwards he comes, and even the stronger question is, he comes and he tells the 5 students, the other students, they passed away because they didn't give kavod to each other. You guys be careful and don't do the same mistake. Don't follow the same trap. What, do you really have to do that? Imagine right now you come and you see the mistake that caused an entire empire to crush underneath. You think you're going to repeat it, a déjà vu? You're going to do the exact same mistake. Saying, so what is it? He has to come and he has to warn them. He's telling them, you guys don't do it, please, don't do it. Well, what are you doing? That's the questions that the Chachamim ask. So there's a beautiful Or Yahel. The Or Yahel is Rav Yoshua Chasman. He was a rabbi of Rav Chaim Levitz from the Mir, his Rebbe. And the Or Yahel, he comes and he says an incredible yesod. It says, Paro hikriv, vayisu b'nei Yisrael et enehem, v'nim Mitzrayim noseh acharehem, vayidu meod, vayitzarku b'nei Yisrael el Hashem. Right by Kriyat Yamsuf, by the dividing of the sea, the splitting of the sea, what happens is that Bnei Yisrael, they're trapped. They have nowhere to turn. So what do? Paro is coming closer. They come, they turn to Hashem. Vayisu b'nei Yisrael et enehem, they raise their eyes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they realize that Mitzrayim is traveling behind them. They start screaming to Hashem. The Midrash Rabbah says, what does it mean, Paro ikriv? Paro came closer. It says, Paro, it doesn't mean that Paro came closer. It means Paro brought us closer to Hashem. What does that mean? When Paro was coming and running after us, the more he was running after us, he caused us to do teshuvah to become closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he says, and that's the explanation when we say it, which means that it comes out that you see that Paro, and that's what they say also with Haman, that Gedolah, right, the Gemara Masechet Megillah says, Gedolah Sarat Tabat, taking off the ring of Achashverosh, giving it to Haman HaRasha, that caused a greater Teshuvah movement more than all the Nevi'im and the Nevi'ot, all the prophets coming and rebuking us and giving us Musa, which is an incredible yesod, something incredible, which means that what we're trying to understand is that with all the trials and tribulations and everything that a person has, the thing that brings us most to do teshuvah is not the Musar. It's not going to be the shiurim. It's not going to be any of those things. You know what it is? It's that when we see the calamities in front of us, when we see all the problems that befall upon us, and we realize there's nowhere where to turn, that's when we realize and we put our eyes up to a more than any other time in the history, which that in itself is an incredible yesod. But why? Why is that? How could it be that one moment before they're praying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and saying, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we realize there's nobody other than you, please save us from Mitzrayim. And 1 minute later, they come and they start saying to Moshe Rabbeinu, what? There's nobody, there's nothing in Mitzrayim? There weren't enough tombstones? There wasn't enough burial plots? They had to take us out to the desert in order to kill us in the desert? What's going on? What's this radical change? One moment we're coming close to Hashem and praying to Him that we need and 1 minute later, right after Kriyat Yamsuf, all of a sudden we start telling HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're telling Moshe Rabbeinu, listen, there wasn't enough tombstones in Mitzrayim? What's going on? Why did you take us out to kill us? Till finally He comes and He's going to give us the man, and He's going to give us the food. What's the ups and downs? What's going on? And Kam Chachamim, and they say an incredible yesod, a fundamental novelty that says like this: even though nishmat chaim be'apo, even though we have a neshama, which a neshama is a chelek melokam imel, the soul is holy, it's pure, it comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but we are also afar min adama. We also come from the dirt. Remember, the human being, the flesh, it's all dirt. It comes from the dirt. That's where HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought us forth. And therefore, what happens is that the Ora Chaim Lamala Maskil, which means that when we try to go up, that's always the neshama part. But the afar part, the mundane part, comes and always tries to bring us down. And therefore, if we're not careful, just as easy it is to go up, it's even easier to go down, right? And if we don't continue always going up, automatically we're going down. I used to say this, my Rosh Yeshiva, Alav Shalom, Rav Ginsburg used to say this from Nerisel, Toronto. He used to say that this world is like a downwards escalator. What does that mean? If you try going up a downwards escalator, what's going to happen? What's going to happen is automatically you're going to start going down. Because if you're not growing, you're falling. Some people come and they tell you, no, Rabbi, I'm okay. I've been the same way, so religious for the past 20 years. I come and I tell them, not true. You know why it's not true? The reason why it's not true is because it's false. If you're not going up, you're automatically going down. So I was once with Rav Knopfler. He's a Rosh Yeshiva of the Manchester Yeshiva. And he told me that this is actually the Gaon Mivilna. The Gaon Mivilna says on the Pasuk, Ora Chaim Lamala Maskil, this. Ora Chaim Lamala Maskil means that we always have to, the Maskil, the one that's smart, is always going up. Because if we're not going up, automatically we're going down. And therefore what happens is that even though we went up, because again, we were afraid. When a person's afraid and they have nothing else what to do, you start turning to Hashem. But if we're not continuing to going up, we fall. And this, unfortunately, I was actually just speaking to someone yesterday. And we were speaking about schools or yeshivot and, seminaries for the children. And I went and I told them like this. I said, you should know, you have to be very careful in choosing your school for your child. And we were speaking back and forth. He has his children in a type of like a Hilel school in Los Angeles. It's completely different there to here. There, I think he told me that 75% are Shomer Shabbat in the Hilel school there. I said, okay. I said, here, obviously, it's not the same. And I told him, you have to choose wisely. And listen to what I told him. I said, I once heard from my Rabbanim the following. Whenever you're going to choose a school for your children, you always have to go up. You always have to aim for much higher religious standards. I said, why? And I'm going to explain. I said, what happens is, let's say right now you're going to send your son to yeshiva, or your daughter to seminary. And that seminary or that school, we're going to call them 100% religious. Black hat, they're very, very religious, 100% up there. Very good. You send your child there. How much do you think your child is going to absorb or to get in them? So the truth is, every single person is different. So you can't give a general thing, but you need more or less, which means some people they absorb much more. I know one boy that he went to Torah and he came back like mamash like a bachur yeshiva, and then I know another one who went to the exact same school. He came back and I didn't really realize any improvements in him. You understand? Like, it was like, okay, he went, came back. I didn't really notice much. Right? If you would have told me he went for a year, I wouldn't have paid attention. So it's true. There is a difference. But I said, but generally, how much does a person take? Let's say how much? 70%. If it's much less and he didn't take that much, 60%, 50%. And if it was a person that took much more, even 80 or 90%, perfect. Very, very good. I'm very happy. But what happens? Yeshiva, seminaries for what? 1 year, 2 years. If they're lucky, they can 3, 4. How many years already? Not forever, right? They have to come back down. They come back down to this world. They start really, living the real world. So what happens? All of a sudden, they start going down. Why? Because it's never the same as being in a full-time yeshiva or seminary and just going out to the real world and working or doing this and doing that. You're around all the institutions around us. So it's not the same. So now what happens? What happens is that from that let's say even 70%. So what's left after 2-3 years, they go down to 50% or even 40%, but you still want that. However, though, let's take another scenario. You come and you say, nah, it's too religious. I'm not on that level. So what am I going to do? I'm going to send my children to a school which is only 70% or 50%. religious, meaning very modern, very this. So now what happens? From that 70 or 50%, how much did they take away from there? And they went down to the 40 or 30. 2 or 3 years later, what happens? As if you didn't send them at all. You didn't gain anything. Which means that this is the baggage that they're taking for the rest of their lives. And that's why it's so important to realize how it is that the most important thing in life is to make sure that they go and they grow. I remember the rabbi of Gibraltar, the Chassid, once told me that he went into one of the Gedolei Ador and he asked him before going to Gibraltar, he said, what's the most important thing to do? He says, you know what your job is? Send the boys to yeshiva. All the rest will be taken care of automatically. All you have to do. Just make sure they go to yeshivot. All the rest will follow suit. And now why is that? Because if you already have that the children are going to religious schools and they're going to much more, so then the rest of the generations is going to have an effect on everyone. What happens, chas v'shalom, if not, so then you lose them. And that's why it's so important, this concept, that always you have to reach for the top and always go for the heights of everything that there is. However, though, the question that we ask ourselves is, so then what's the secret to success then? If it's so easy for a person to go up and then go back down, so then why is it? And do you know, by the way, we actually read this every single week. Every single, whether it's going to be on Motzei Shabbat or Sunday morning, we come and we say, Mi ya'aleh behar Hashem, u'mi yakum bimkom kodsho. Why did it have to say, Mi ya'aleh behar Hashem? Who's going to go up to the mountain of Hashem and who's going to stand there? U'mi yakum bimkom kodsho, in his holy place. Why do we have to say that? Just say, Mi ya'aleh behar Hashem. And the answer that they answer is what we just said now. Mi ya'aleh behar Hashem is very easy to go up to the mountain of Hashem. The secret, though, is mi yakum bimkom kodsho, who's going to stay there standing. Because many times if you're just going to go up, but you're going to go down the mountain just as quickly as you went up and you're going to slip down, so then that's not, everyone could do that. The secret is not the mi ya'aleh behar Hashem. The secret is on the last part, the latter part of the pasuk, mi yakum bimkom kodsho, who's going to be there standing. The last man standing, that's a secret. He's the winner. The other ones, yeah, everyone. Well, you're going to send somebody to yeshiva, they're not going to change. If they don't change, they have to be completely not in tune or completely they don't want to do it. But the secret is afterwards, I want to see it. I want to see the challenge afterwards. When somebody comes home from the yeshiva and they're going every single day, whether it's to Shachrim Michan Arvit and everything, that's not a chokhmah. I want to see them 6 months later. I want to see where the spiritual status is there. Then you could tell me what the yeshiva had an effect on him or not. Because at the beginning, if he didn't, that means he wasn't in yeshiva. He was probably strolling around Ben Yehuda all day. And he wasn't there, right? So that's why it's so important for us to know.
And this, Rabbi, the problem is not to make the money, the problem is to keep it.
Exactly. Very good. That's what they say in the mundane world.
Yes.
Yeah, the problem is not to make the money, to keep the money. You're right, 100%. Because the making of it is very easy. The keeping of it is the smart part. Understand the management, the this or that, 100%. Very good. Okay. So basically like this. On the Mishnah Pirke Avot that we just said, Im ena lili, mili. Hilel says, if it's not for me, what is there for me? Ushani le'atzmi mani, even when I am for myself, what am I? Bimno achshav v'matayin, if it's not for now, then when? Explains that Rabbeinu Yonah in Sharet Teshuvah. He says like this. He says, Im ha'adam lo ya'arer nafsho, ma yo'ilu hamusarim. If a person doesn't awaken themselves, what it is help all the musar that they're going to hear. What does that mean? Here explains the Siftei Chaim, the Friedlander, the student of Rav Dessler. He explains like this. He says, a person should not think that everything comes externally, meaning change comes from an external aspect. Because the truth is, the musar that a person receives from the outside is only the first awakening. And afterwards, a person has to awaken himself and to change themselves. Because if not, all the musar that they hear is worthless. Which means that even though they come into his ear when he's listening to it, that means he hears a beautiful food, incredible, beautiful. But what happens? The Yetzer Hara will make him forget it. Because at the time it's beautiful, but afterwards they forget. So therefore a person, when he listens to Musar, he has to immediately take it and to apply it to himself. And he has to put it deep into himself in order that it should actually affect him. And therefore says, that's the explanation of im en anili mili, which means I'm going to come now and I want to listen to a shiur. It's Chodesh Elul, the month of Elul. I want to do teshuvah. It's very difficult. The virus, can you actually go out to different selichot? What can you do? You don't have the big, huge groups screaming, everything as usual. The shofar, everything. It's much different this year. So what do you want to do? You want to get affected. So then you're going to listen to one shiur and another shiur, and you want to do all these million different things. Beautiful. But what's going to happen? What happens is we have to realize, though, that it's only the beginning. Because the shiur in itself, or the beautiful message that we hear, no matter how inspirational it is, it's only the beginning. But the second part, which is the most important part, is Ena davar talui el abi. It all depends on me. Because all the musar in the world is just the first step. What are you going to do with it? It's like the recipe. I could give you the recipe, but if you're not going to make the food to make the recipe, you're not going to eat anything. You're going to stay with anything. You have the beautiful recipe. Here it is. Look, this is how you make it. What amounts. What are you supposed to do? Beautiful. But if you don't apply it within, it's like a medicine. You made the medicine, but if you don't actually drink the medicine and you make it a part of yourself, there's nothing there. And that's the explanation. Ena davar talui el abi. Now, according to this is actually a Gemara. The Gemara says in Masechet Avodah Zarah Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph, Rabbi Eliezer ben Durdia. Who was this Rabbi Eliezer ben Durdia? The Gemara says he went and he did every avirah a person can imagine. Every avirah that a person can imagine, he did. Until one time, a woman made a comment to him. And she told him that you will never be able to do teshuvah, basically. It made an impact on him. Because you have to remember, people like challenges. Many times if you give a challenge to someone, right, they love it. I know a person, I came and I told him, you can't do it. What? I can't do it? You're going to see how I'm going to do it. In my mind, I said, I won. I said, why? That's exactly what I wanted. Because you give them a challenge. People don't want to feel that they are binded to something, or they have some barrier that is stopping them, right? Compelled not to do something. They want to feel I'm a free man. Free man means I can do anything and everything that I want. What happens? When somebody comes and he tells them, you can never do teshuvah in your life, it hits a person hard. So it knocked him over. And this is talking about a person that he did every avirah possible. What did he do? He comes and he starts crying between the mountains, the rivers. He starts asking for all the ministering angels to pray for him. And every single one of them were answering him that before we pray for you, we have to pray for ourselves. Until finally he went and he said, I realize she'en hadavar talui el abi. Everything is only depending on me. Which means sometimes we try to get other people involved. And sometimes we try to get that, does it say, externally. And we don't realize that, 1 second, you really want to do something. It starts here, inside. Everything else, it could help. But they're helpers. They're not the main thing. And that's what we always have to have in mind. So what happened? He started crying and crying and crying with teshuvah until he passed away. And a bat kol came out, a heavenly voice came out. And the heavenly voice came out and said, Rabbi Eliezer ben Durdia is mizuman l'chayei olam haba. Rabbi Eliezer ben Durdia is fitting to come to olam haba. On this, which we're going to see in a few minutes, what happened is that there were rabbis that were crying for these cases. Why? Because you see that in a moment's time, they were able to acquire all olam haba. Because here you had a person, he was a rasha. He was a wicked person the entire life. And what happened? And all of a sudden, he comes and he does teshuvah. And with those moments of doing teshuvah, they were so genuine, they were so bona fide, they were so truth, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu accepted the teshuvah. And immediately what happened? It was annulled the decree. He was able to get olam haba. And that's why they were crying. The Od Yahel, right? Again, Rav Chasman, the rabbi of Rav Chaim Levitz, he comes and he says as follows. you see that Yisurim come from Shamayim. Suffering and afflictions, any type of suffering comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So if so, that which Paro brought Bnei Israel back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu more than all the fasts and all the tefillot and everything was because when a person's afflicted, that's what brings them closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He says, however, though, Hatayif enecha bo ve'enenu. All you do is you close your eyes, like you just blink, and it goes away. And what happens? All of a sudden, it goes away within 1 second. And that's why it says, you could have people that they're on the verge of life and death, and all of a sudden you'll see some radical change. That's something incredible. They're 100% choser b'tshuva and everything. 10 minutes later, if they're out of the danger, you could see as if to say that there was nothing there. And you said to yourself, what happened? What exactly went on? And the yesod is what we just mentioned. Because no matter how quick we go up, if we don't internalize it, it could go out just as easy. And it could disappear as if it never actually came in.
You know,
And
Rabbi,
that's why it's so important to understand this. What did you want to ask?
this week I learned with Robert Max, because I asked him, reading about something about Tehillim, I asked him, what was David HaMelech Zoheh of that 90% of the prayers with Tehillim? He wrote them. And, you know, why no Moshe? Why no Abraham? So he said because of his life, he suffered so much. I said, okay. And Robert Max explained, you know, we learned that the Imaot, they were barren because God wanted their prayers. So my question was, okay, if they wanted the prayers, why the suffering? Why can they not pray? You know, you still can pray. If you are in such a level, you can pray also when things are good. So he explained to me, the prayers are not the same. When you have a tzar, when you have a suffering, that if everything is good, you still pray, still very good, but the kevanah and the enthusiasm that you do when you have something going on that you need redemption or you need help is completely different than when things are nice and you put
Going well. Do you remember that's what we spoke about a few weeks ago with Tefillah le'ani? You remember we said Tefillah le'Moshe, that even Moshe Rabbeinu, an ani that's suffering, the poor person that's suffering, has a stronger tefillah than even a Moshe Rabbeinu, which is an incredible yesod, and that's the same thing. They actually bring this down from David HaMelech, because David HaMelech said that he was like a kinor. What does it mean a kinor? The more you stretch the kinor, the better the sound. If the harp, if it's very loose, all the different strings, doesn't sound well. The stronger that it is, the more that it is. So he was saying, the more that you're going to stretch me out and cause me to suffer, the more I'm going to sing my praises to Hashem. And remember, we spoke about this, I think it was on Erev Shavuot. We said, David HaMelech, people don't realize the life that he had. Everyone knows David HaMelech as the warrior, the king. Think about it. Until 28 years, he was thought to be a mamzer. Do you know what that means? That every single one of your brothers think that you're a mamzer? For 28 years. We're not even talking about for 2-3 years. 28 years of his life. That's almost half his life. He lived until 70. 35 years is half his life. Half his life, he was thought to be a mamzer. You know, think about that. Until that Yishai comes and he's bringing all his children to Shemuel HaNavi to see who's going to become king, he didn't even bring David HaMelech. He didn't even think to bring David HaMelech. It didn't make sense. Shemuel says, what, there's nobody else? What, there's nobody? I was told to anoint someone. I don't see anyone. What's going on here? You understand? It's incredible. And then you had all the people that were running after him, right? Then you had Shaul HaMelech, his own son. Twice it happened, right? There was Adoniah, there was Shalom, his own son wanting to kill him. He was on the run, right? You had Doeg Adomi, you had all the people. Look at all the problems that he had in life. And we always look at David HaMelech only on but we don't realize all his problems. It's true. That's the way it is. So he says over here, the Sichot Musar, Rav Chaim Shmuel Levitz, he comes and he says, that's the explanation on what happened on the Yam Suf. By the Yam Suf, it's written that a shifcha, maidservant, by the Kriyat Yam Suf, saw more than even some of the biggest prophets, right? Like Musa and so on and so forth. So he says, 1 second. So what happened? He said very simple. He says many times you could get a prophecy or you could get something that you didn't work on. You could get the highest levels of prophecy. But something that you didn't internalize and you didn't work on it, it goes away just like it came. And therefore, Har Sinai, think about it. Har Sinai, you're allowed to walk onto nowadays. You could go to Mount Sinai, right? Even though the Torah was given there, and any animal that would have gone there would have been killed, but you could go there. But Har HaBayit, the Temple Mount, you're not allowed to. Why? The Temple Mount, we infused the Kedusha in the Temple Mount. We were the ones, where there was a David Ishon bringing his korbanot there, Noach, Akerat Yitzchak, every single one, we were the ones that put the Kedusha there. Har Sinai, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put the Kedusha for a moment, and then he took it away, right after Matan Torah. There, the Kedusha doesn't stay. The Kedusha only stays when you work on something. When it's going to be working, when it's going to internalize, when it's Ena Davar Talui Elabi. It always has to be with what we did with ourselves. And that's why it says, right, Chachamim come and they say, there's many different concepts of this, right? But they come and they say that they actually learn it from Rabbi Eliezer ben Durdia even more. Why did they learn it from Rabbi Eliezer ben Durdia? Remember the story that we just brought down, that he came, he started crying, and he said, it only depends on me. He says, you know why? Almost every single one of us in life always has answers. Tirutzim, they call them. Not really answers, excuses. What does that mean, excuses? They ask a person, why are you not on the religious level that you should be? Listen, I never got a good chavruta. I don't have good neighbors. I wasn't educated the way that other people were. It wasn't, my rabbi wasn't so involved and proactive. My wife was always putting me down. We always try to find excuses externally. External excuses, why are we not growing? Says the Siftei Chaim, he says, what Rabbi Eliezer ben Durdia was trying to teach us is that there's no such thing as an excuse. If somebody's going to tell you about a friend, you're right. We've spoken about this in the past. Friends, a true friend, says the Me'idi and others as well, is a friend that will be able to give you musar and give you on the head. Some people don't like those friends. Some people say, you know what's a good friend? He goes out with me to party, right? But the problem though is that in the time of need, they're not there anymore. They disappear. Yeah, and a lot of people, they know that. So what is a good friend? Somebody that gives you on the head. Somebody that will be able to tell you the truth, even though the truth hurts. Because remember, the truth in itself is what's going to go in. And therefore, if he's telling you the truth, it means that he cares about you. When you have somebody come and tell you that, no, don't, that means they don't care about you. If they really cared, they would tell you. Imagine right now, a person's going to come and they're going to start drinking a certain type of a poison. You're not going to stop them. There might be a cure, there might be a this, they might have antibodies, they might have whatever you want. You're not going to stop them. If you care about them, you're going to stop them. So the exact same thing is with religion. Spirituality is the exact same thing. So it's true. A good friend is like that. But we have to stop with all the different types of excuses. Why? Because we have to actually realize that everything has to be with ourselves. The Yeshua, the true salvation comes from ourselves. Everything else could be an aid, a help. But remember that it's only an aid. The main part comes from ourselves. There was once with Rav Naftali Amsterdam that he came to his rabbi, right, Rav Yisrael Salanter, and he told Rav Yisrael Salanter, if I had the head of the Sha'agat Aryeh, if I had the heart of the Baal Yisrael Shosh Ravoda, and I had the good midot of my Rebbe, of you, right, of Rabbeinu, then I could truly serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu properly. The Rav Yisrael Salanter answered him, Naftali, that you with your head, you with your heart, and you with your midot are going to be Rav Naftali, which means that's how you're really going to be able to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu properly. Why? Because when a person comes to the realization, that has nothing to do with outside. It has to do with the inside. It's true. AIDS, you should always have AIDS. That's the concept of kolelim, the concept of yeshivot, the concept of everything, good friends, shiurim, things like that. That's a purpose. It's an aid. But we have to remember that it's only an aid. If we're going to come and send the child to yeshiva and say, that's it, I'm already done. If the child is not open to changing themselves, they'll never change. And by the way, you should know the secret happens in everything in life. You could have certain people that they're smokers, and you could give them on the head for 20 years. One day they will decide, I am going to stop smoking. Tamarnu, there's nothing what to do. And you're going to say, how did it become so easy? I've been trying for 20 years, trying to work on the guy, stop smoking, stop smoking, stop smoking. They made their own decision, nothing. As if there's nothing that's going to budge them anymore. Diet, exact same thing. You have a person that's been overeating, obese, anything that you want for years and years. Nothing will help until they make the decision. Once they make their own decision, the rest of the way is easy. You just, it's Speedy Gonzalez, you just run. But until then, it's impossible. Because if the person themselves don't make that decision, it will not be possible. It just won't work. You could try as much as you can, but it just won't help. And that's why it's so important for us to realize this, because every single time it keeps on happening. You know, the Rav Mebrisky used to say once is that when people want to do teshuvah, they go to a rabbi. He said, Rabbi, give me a beracha. I want to do teshuvah. So the Rav Mebrisky once said, he went and he said, right, you don't want to do teshuvah. He said, Rabbi, what are you talking about? I'm coming. I want to do teshuvah. Right? So usually people think, you have to pay for it. Rabbi, here, I'll give you a donation. Yeah, I want to do teshuvah. He says, I don't need the donations and I don't need your beracha. You don't want to do teshuvah. Why? It's very simple. If you want to do teshuvah, you'll do teshuvah. If you're coming to ask me for a beracha to do teshuvah, you already think you're Yotzei Chovah. You think you fulfilled your obligation. And now if you don't do teshuvah, you're going to say, listen, I tried my best. I went to the rabbi and asked him for beracha. Maybe it's berachot. Maybe that rabbi is not a big rabbi. It's not like, listen, the berachot didn't work. And I said, what can I do? God, you have to forgive me. The rabbi, blame the rabbi. You understand? What are you blaming me for? Blaming him. He says that's the concept. Exact same thing. You want to do something, do it yourself. Again, you're always permitted to get the aid, the help, right? How to do it, how to make the medicine, how to do teshuvah. But don't think that the rabbi is going to make you do teshuvah. It's you yourself. It's we ourselves that are doing the ones which are in the teshuvah. So to finish off, he says, this is the kol dodi dofek. Also, he comes and he says, beautiful concept, and he says like this, Rishon Shudron, right? Again, this is one of the students of the Or Yahel. He comes and he says as follows. He says, in Elul, in Aseret Yemei Teshuvah, every single time we try to look for things to do teshuvah. We go to the mashkiach, we start listening to shiurim, we start doing all these things, right? But everything is the Yetzer Hara as well. This is why, right? A lot of people are going to be astonished. What does that mean? I'm going to go to a shiur and it's Yetzer Hara. And the answer is yes. The reason why is because the Yetzer Hara sometimes comes. What?
But if I'm going to a shiur, is the Yetzer Hara as well?
Sometimes it could be Yetzer Hara. He says why? The Yetzer Hara, sometimes he could come as the bad guy. Sometimes he could come as your good friend. Sometimes he could come as a Rosh Yeshiva. And sometimes he could even come as your mashkiach, as the one that's in charge of your ruchaniut. He says, why? That in itself is the Yetzer Hara in order that you're not going to actually change in itself. Meaning some people, they'll come and they say, listen, I went to Selichot every single morning. The day after Kippur, they were the exact same like they were in the month of Av. What happened? But they're going to tell you, but I went to Selichot every single morning. I did Vidui 150 times. Every single time I did this. What's going on? Very simple. The answer is that they were trying to run away from their true obligation. True obligation is doing teshuvah. Again, remember, the shiur is an aid to do teshuvah. The shiur in itself is not the ends in itself. A shiur, whether it's musar, whether it's a shiur, is a medium to an ends. The medium is the catalyst which is going to make you go to do teshuvah. When you hear a shiur and you finish a shiur and say, wow, beautiful shiur, and you leave it at that, that's what it finished with. It was a beautiful shiur. More than that, nothing. Wallo. Went in one ear, out the other ear. Halvai Ochala went in the ear. Or it went in, stayed in the head. And I said, all right, at least went in. Yeah, somebody once told me that. I said, Rabbi, at least it went in. And sometimes it doesn't even penetrate. I said, it gets blocked here. It missed the hole. Whoops, you went up. So therefore, it's so important to realize this. Because again, the concept that Chachamim are trying to say is that we have to realize that everything that we do around us is dependent upon ourselves. And this is such an important yesod. We could go on and on for hours. I've got here another minimum of probably around 20 or 30 minutes of this concept. But again, it's so important to realize that it's ourselves. And why do I say this? I always like to say this at the beginning of Elul, Because during Elul, we come and we start making excuses. So one of the biggest excuses will be, listen, virus, I can't go to Slichot, I don't feel Elul, you know, the children around, this, that. No. En hadavar talui ela bi. It's up to you. And it's up to us, and every single one of us, individually. We could start. You're right. We could get all the aids in the world. We could get good chavrutot. We could get good, friends. We could get good rabbis. We could get everything that we want. But we have to remember one thing. They are only an aid. They're only a help. Everything else, though, depends on our decisions. When we decide to do teshuvah, that's when be'emet we're going to do teshuvah. I hope, Bezrat Hashem, that we could actually utilize this. As we say, that's what we say, ani ledodi v'dodi. When I am to Hashem, when I am to my beloved, then Hashem will be to us. Because it all depends on me, on the ani. Usually, if you think about it, we don't like the ani. Who's ani? The ani is egoistic. It's always like, thinking about yourself. But no. If I'm here, everything's here. Because everything depends on me. It depends on us, right? We have to realize that. Open up our eyes and say, you know what? If I want to change, it's going to start with me. After I change, Bezrat Hashem, everyone else will follow suit. The children, the wife, the this, the that, everything. But first, it has to start with me. I cannot wait for my children to change me. I cannot wait for my spouse to change me. I cannot wait for my parents. It's me. When I start, then I'll be able to continue and have a lot of success. Bezrat Hashem, I just hope that there should be, this good start of Elul.
Bezrat Hashem. Bezrat Hashem. Robert, question. We're saying that, in the beginning you said about the yeshiva, that you can 70%, and when you come to the real world, you drop. So when people, let's say, try to do teshuvah, it gets to a point that everything becomes mechanic. I just go make the tefillin, I just go to shul, I just do the Shabbat. So how can you do, although a person is doing teshuvah and he's trying to do things, how they can do to try to get away from the monotonous or the mechanic way, okay, I'm just doing it because I do it, but they don't have, let's put it this way, we don't have necessarily the proper kavanah, or not even kavanah. I don't know if I'm expressing myself, or the proper...
No, it's a very valid question. I'm going to explain like this. First of all,
you're accustomed to it.
Right. I'll try to explain that in another shiur. But part of the other shiur will also be that when it becomes mechanic to you, even though there's no Yetzer Hara, you will still get the same reward as if you had it. Which means like this. For example, let's say a person was not Shomer Shabbat. So when they were not Shomer Shabbat, they had a big Yetzer Hara. Should they Shomer Shabbat? Not. All of a sudden, they become Shomer Shabbat. It becomes automatic afterwards to be Shomer Shabbat, meaning that there's no Yetzer Hara at all to be Mechalel Shabbat, to desecrate the Shabbat. In HaKadosh Baruch Hu's eyes, that person will get the reward every single Shabbat as if he was fighting with his Yetzer Hara that he wanted to be Mechalel Shabbat. Even though now it became an automatic, he's not. Which is incredibly yesod. You're right, I'll try to explain another time. How do you still keep the oomph and the enthusiasm in it? Which means that at the end of the day, you still want with the kavanah, with everything. Now it doesn't become like a robot, a machine, which in Hebrew is called a mitzat anashim lumada, like something automatic. But that in itself already is one part of the answer to understand that a person will get that reward. And Bezrat Hashem will go on afterwards.